Harmless things I was not allowed to do as a Jehovah's Witness. So the Jehovah's Witness religion has a lot of stupid rules. And the reason for this is Jehovah's Witnesses are absolutely terrified of being killed in Armageddon by their angry God Jehovah. As a result, when you see guidelines in the Bible, Jehovah's Witnesses would create rules on top of those rules to make sure that they don't break any of these rules, much like the Pharisees in Jesus' day. So here is some silly, harmless things that I wasn't allowed to do as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. I wasn't allowed to have posters on my bedroom wall, because to Jehovah's Witnesses, that's idol worship. I wasn't allowed to celebrate my birthday. In fact, my birthday wasn't even acknowledged. I remember being 4 years old, and my mother opening a letter, a bill that she'd received, and she said, "Oh, Mark, you're 4 now." And I said, "Wow, I'm 4 years old today." And she said, No, 2 days ago you were 4 years old." And I said, "Oh, right." And I went to school and told everybody, and they sang happy birthday to me. When I went home and told my parents this, I was punished because they sang happy birthday to me, because Jehovah's Witnesses aren't allowed to do birthdays. I wasn't allowed to study any other religion, because all other religions were from Satan, and therefore evil. And I was heavily discouraged from reading a real Bible. The reason being, real Bibles are biased because they're written by actual theologians who are experts in biblical languages. And as a result, the name Jehovah is missing from the New Testament, even though it actually doesn't appear in the New Testament. And the Jehovah's Witness Bible, the New World Translation, adds Jehovah's name to the New Testament, because if we were to read a real Bible, our religion would stop making sense. I also wasn't allowed to research my own religion on the internet. I wasn't allowed to celebrate Christmas, or Easter, or New Year's, or Valentine's Day. Basically, if it involved joy and laughter, it wasn't allowed. I wasn't allowed to speak to ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. In fact, we were told that ex-Jehovah's Witnesses have a mental disease, and that you can catch this disease by talking to them or reading anything that they write. I wasn't allowed to criticise or question the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses, because we were told that the governing body are the voice of Jesus, and that questioning the governing body means questioning God himself. I wasn't allowed to wave a flag or own a flag, because that's nationalism, and nationalism means you worship Satan, obviously. I wasn't allowed to vote, because voting means that you're in opposition to God's kingdom, and therefore you're voting for Satan. I wasn't allowed to have a blood transfusion, even if it meant that I would die if I refused one. And that also went for my kids. If my children needed a blood transfusion, I was supposed to let them die. I wasn't allowed to be friends with non-Jehovah's Witnesses. I could have acquaintances in school and work, but was absolutely not allowed to associate with them outside of school or work, because bad associations spoil useful habits, and in Jehovah's Witness land, bad associations means anyone who isn't a Jehovah's Witness. Now, this isn't an exhaustive list. There's hundreds and hundreds of more stupid things that I was not allowed to do, but these are the most common ones, and every Jehovah's Witness that you meet is not allowed to do those things. So, ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, have I forgotten any? Which stupid things were you not allowed to do?